Hello everybody and welcome back to another tutorial video. Today we're going to be covering how to dig a V-ditch or a slope ditch. A lot of times these trenches are used in utility work or anywhere you have an excavation that will be deeper than 5 foot. You need to slope it. So how we figure this out is we use a simple math equation. We have a diagram with a ditch of 1.5 to 1 slope ratio. So you take your depth, your total depth of your ditch will be 3 foot. Then you have your ratio 1.5 to 1 slope ratio. Therefore, that'll give you a total slope distance of 4.5 foot. Then you have to add your bucket width. After you add your bucket width to the 4.5 foot on both sides, you get your total width. Top of your ditch will be 11 foot wide. So you know you're going to be at least 11 foot wide at the top of your ditch. Starting the procedure the same way you would for a straight ditch. You line the machine up directly over the center line. Make sure the center line runs through the center tooth of the bucket, completely through the frame of the machine. The machines that we have at our facility have an offset boom. The boom is slightly offset about 8 inches to the right. Now it's time to start digging. Remember, per OSHA regulations, you have to have a minimum of 2 foot in between your spoil pile and the top of your ditch. So in this case, we have a 1.5 to 1 slope. You must keep the dirt a minimum of 6.5 feet away from the center line of your trench. And how did I come up with that number? Well, you have a 3 foot deep ditch at 1.5 to 1 slope. Therefore, you would have a 4.5 foot wide slope plus the 2 foot for the flat spot between the ditch and the spoil pile. Dig this portion of the ditch just like you would any other straight ditch. Let's speed things up a little bit. Okay, now you've established your center line and your grade. Now you can start laying out your slope. You can use your bucket or you can use a tape measure. In this case, Mike's going to use his bucket. It's a 2 foot wide bucket, so he knows he needs at least 2 bucket widths, which is 4 foot, for his slope. So here he's measuring using the bucket. Once you have your layout and you know your width, then you can start making the slope. So when you start cutting the slope, all you're really doing is cutting a series of notches into the slope. Start establishing the top edge of your slope. Once you have the top edge established, then you can move over about 6 inches and then lower the next cut about 6 inches. And then basically start cutting steps into your trench. Move over 6 inches, cut another 6 inches. And just keep doing this process all the way over till you're back in the center line of your trench. This should give you a nice continuous slope all the way to the bottom of your trench. This process generates a lot of extra spoilage in the trench. Clean the bottom as needed. You want to try to keep your established grade. Try to visualize a straight line from the top of the slope all the way to the bottom of your trench. You do not want a sudden drop off or a lump in the side of your slope. It should be a continuous, gradual slope all the way to the bottom. Here we see Mike using his teeth just to take out a couple high spots. Continue to work the slope from the top to the bottom. All the loose material will fall to the bottom of the slope and then in your trench, and then you will clean it out later. Remember to keep your top edges clean too. In real world situations, you have ground personnel that are walking around you constantly. I feel like I forgot something. What was it? Oh. Okay, now you got one side done. And you're happy with the grade, you've checked the grade, the slope looks good. Okay, now we can move on to the other side. The same process is applied. We'll speed things up a little bit here. So you keep just doing the same process over and over again. You trim a little bit, you clean it out, trim a little bit more, clean it out, trim a little bit more, clean it out, until you're happy with the slope. Remember, like I said, it should be a nice continuous slope all the way to the bottom of the trench. Okay, here we have Mike demonstrating two different processes. On the right, he has cut the slope using the teeth. He has not smoothed the slope at all. But on the left, he's using the heel of the bucket to smooth the slope and actually remove any kind of loose material from the slope. Each situation is perfectly acceptable as long as there's no dangerous clumps of dirt hanging above somebody's head or loose material that could fall on someone. Remember, before you back up, to clean both top edges and the bottom. Make sure the bottom is on grade. Remove any kind of loose material from the top side of the slope. Now that you've established the slope and the ditch, you can continue on using the same process. For demonstration purposes, we'll just speed up the tape a little bit. Remember, the further you go back, your trench width must remain the same at the top. Okay, when coming to the end of your trench, you want to knock all loose material into the trench, so that way it's easier to clean up. Clean the bottom, the sides, and the top. Okay, Mike has knocked all the loose material into the trench. Now you'll clean up the last little bit. Once you've removed all the excess material and the slope and the ditch is on grade, you are finished. The slope on the right has been smoothed out with the heel of the bucket. The slope on the left has not. Both methods are perfectly acceptable, as long as there's no debris that could fall on any person that may be in the trench. Make sure the slopes are continuous from the top all the way to the bottom, and the bottom is a smooth, flat bottom, and it's on grade. As you can see, we have our flat bottom, the slope, and then the spoil pile is a minimum of 2 foot away from the top of our ditch, per OSHA regulations. This has been our tutorial on how to do a slope ditch or V-ditch. If you have any further questions, feel free to ask your instructor. This has been an Operating Engineers Local 37 production. Thank you for watching.